there's Eddie.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Oh, there he is. What's up, dude?
How you guys all doing?
Good. You're gonna do it right from there?
Yeah, the way things worked out just is what it is. It has to be this way because unfortunate. Actually, it wasn't so bad. It was just some synchronicities. Actually, is what happened in a weird way.
All right. You look like you're in the woods. That looks peaceful.
It is peaceful, actually, dude. I went snowboarding today, so on the way back, I just pulled over somewhere to just do this really, and like this is the most peaceful spot I'm at right now. So.
Do you want to talk about your synchronicity during this? Because we don't have to right now, but is this something you want to bring up today, what you went through today?
Well, I could, yeah, definitely. I think it kind of like fits in a bit. It was like in a really weird way. But yeah, it was just like a strange situation, really. So I was on my way home. I had planned to be home at 2 after snowboarding today. And just the way the situations worked out, I was trying to extend it by a little bit just to try to come up to get to the house first before meeting with you guys. And I had been doing all these plans to try getting there. I was like, all right, I'll just be there at 2 p.m. Everything will work out fine. Unfortunately, my downstairs neighbor plays music a lot of the time. So it's like really loud music, in fact. So when he's playing with his band, you can't hear anything. So I'm on my way. I was like, oh, I'm going to be like 15 minutes late. I might as well just see if I can do it in a different location than my house. And then my neighbor texts me and he's like, hey, so we're going to be jamming today at the house at 2 p.m. So I don't know if it would work for you or not. I was like, dude, that's just wild. That is just such a weird coincidence that 2 p.m. happens to be the same time for him too. So I was like, you know what, dude, just do your thing. I'm just gonna find somewhere else to just do my meeting that I have today. So
synchronicities actually come up a lot when you're doing these kinds of discussions, especially electronics problems. Like I had a guy message me today on Discord in our group, and he said I'd like to do an interview with you. But I'm telling you, there probably will be a lot of technical problems, so be ready for that,
Oh, really? Why? Is that like common? You guys commonly have issues?
Yeah, it's a common thing that whatever the phenomenon is, that it messes with the electronics quite a bit.
Yeah, I believe it.
The last time that we had a video together with you was like, I would say over a year ago, and kind of just got your testimony and where you were at with everything. So I was hoping to just do like a catch up, from if you could think back to where you were at that time that we did the last video together. And if you can really kind of think about what has transpired within that time and where you're at now, and maybe just kind of share a little bit of like what has happened, how things unfolded, even within moderating other communities, or like what's been going on in your personal life, or how have you seen the interplay of what you've been going through with this, and just kind of bring us all up to speed and fill in the gap.
Yeah, so let's see. We spoke about a year ago. We had a couple different instances, and a lot has happened, man. Actually, I think a significant amount has happened in my own life and the people around me. This worked out way better than I thought, by the way. I wasn't just the timing was really off. So I'm really glad that it worked out this way. I apologize about being a little bit late, but it is a crazy synchronicity at the end of the day, in my opinion. And I see that often. So in the beginning of this whole experience, I mean, it's been a rough ride, dude. Like it's been 2 years, I think, full blown TI experience. I've been aware of everything that's been happening to me for 2 years straight now. Prior to that, after thinking about it a lot, it was another year before that happened. So March 2022 is when everything really started for me. I didn't realize it for another year past that. So you hear these voices, right? And you just think it's your neighbors, or you just think it's people around you. You don't pay much attention to it, and escalates into like the full blown TI experience. Well, when we met, I was like a year maybe into it at that point. And at that point in my experience, things had begun going down on a decline. Just process where it feels like everything is just leaving, like they're like slightly leaving in a way. Not that they do, in my opinion, but like it just felt like it was like a slow withdrawal from them or something. And it just continued that decline. So for months after when we first talked, we did the survey. Actually, we had done the survey. That was the last conversation we had on a video chat, all of us, or at least you and I, Kevin. And the survey was that revealing bit where we'd understood how many people were around doing this, or what people were going through and the phases that they were at. So from that point on, I've had both positive and negative things happen in my life. I've had, and just separate from the TI experience in itself, I've had a lot of like ups. There's a lot of people I ended up meeting in my life, and a lot of positive things have happened, and also some negative things too. So it's been like a mixture of trying to understand how to live this life in the most normal fashion possible, while also dealing with just normal life things. So I think that, yeah, it's been a lot, man. It became easier for me after I started. So one of the last things I did with the groups in general about a year ago is like I separated myself. After about like a few months later, I decided to just stop being involved in the TI communities. Quite a big jump back. At the time, there's a lot of chaos. I mean, as you guys know, there's a lot of chaos in the communities. It's really volatile, like people sometimes. Just the atmosphere can be chaotic. You know, people are going through a lot of shit. And it's really hard to keep that on track sometimes with everybody. And that can be hard on everybody, including me. It was really hard to hear and see a lot of people having such vastly different concepts of what's happening because they're right to their subjective experience. That's their experience. And just, or like misunderstanding or just misinformation too. And it was like affecting me in a way where I decided that I was going to take a step back, like a significant step back. And it was probably the best thing I ever did in my life, to be honest. At least so far in this experience is one of the best things I've ever done. When I stepped back, at first it was kind of like, well, what do? I want to talk to people still. I want to like involve myself. I want to get involved in the communities, and I still have my own Discord server. But like, even with that, I just stepped back and it just let it unfold, doing what it does without me, everything in general. So I was able to look at the experience, the communities from a third perspective, looking into it. And I see like it's just, as you know, there's a lot of just meaningless arguments sometimes and just a lot of chaos. And that was seeing it from the outside. It just gave me a sense of like peace, honestly, stepping back. Like once I was able to detach myself from the emotional connection to a lot of the situations, the conversations, the people, it was a little easier for me. And I would just watch it from the outside and I would see the communities, but I wouldn't engage as much anymore. And I started living my own life, doing things I wanted to do in a way that's different. I guess when I was very involved with the communities, I would, you know, like talk about what I'm doing, get people's opinions, just the basic conversation stuff you do. And then I stopped doing all of that. So I just have my own opinion on everything now. And like that can be a positive and a negative thing. But I was just able to get my head together and just in peace. It's kind of sounds like I'm kind of dragging this on a bit, but it's just like, I don't know. It's like a breath of fresh air. That's the best word for it. Breath of fresh air.
I don't think it sounds like you're dragging on at all, man. I think that this is, this is exactly what we needed to hear and what we're here to talk about. Seriously, like that's what you went through and what you did with it. And this is important, I think. You know what I mean? So I appreciate it.
When you and I had spoken before, you said that you were experiencing like a more of a connection, I guess, emotional connection or conscious connection with people in your environment strangers, family members, or just a feel for the atmosphere itself wherever you're at?
Yeah. So when I decided to step back from everything, I started realizing that I was very sensitive to emotional connections with people. I was just feeling like I could feel what people feel sometimes. It's a weird thing. Personal people in front of my life, like physically, or people who were not in front of my life. So I started feeling these connections with people that I couldn't understand. Very complex feelings, I guess, or maybe just very basic intuitive feelings. And that was weird at first. And since I decided to disengage with the communities a bit, I'm just here to figure this out on my own at that time. So I'm trying to understand what I feel, who I'm engaging with was very, very important because now that I've separated from myself from the groups, I'm engaging with one or two people, and those people's connections I'm talking with, the connections I'm having with these people are very, they're much more emotional, I guess. There's a lot, I could just feel weird things, and then I felt like I could just understand how people felt, what they might feel, what their environment was like, what they went through. A lot of the times it would just feel like I could see their trauma sometimes at times. And that's kind of hard. You're speaking with somebody and you just feel like you understand how they got to this place just by feeling. and you could see their life, but not really seeing it in my mind, but I could just feel their life and their pain and their happiness. It's a weird fucking thing, man. But it was like earlier in my life, I always felt like I was like very connected to people. And then when this happened, it felt like it just times 10. And when I stepped back from the communities, now I'm like trying to understand these emotional connections I feel with people. If I'm like vibing with people in a certain way, and like I felt sometimes like my mind was linked with somebody else or other people in general. And if I was vibing with somebody in a way, or just like connected with somebody, or I get along with somebody, or like that kind of energy, it was like times 20. And I couldn't make sense of it. And the people I did engage with on like a personal level also felt similar types of sensations and emotions, which made me think that there was a lot more to this than I realized. Like, I know a lot of the stuff that we hear is negative a lot of the time. And I'm not saying that there's a negative or a positive atmosphere to this, but what I experienced with these connections with people made me think very differently about what was happening. I realized that it's not all like, I don't know, I can't really say a defined answer for that, but there's a lot more. Yeah, it's just difficult, but I felt connected to people in a weird way. And
So I would say, personally, one of the things that I've been able to do that I was never able to do before in the past was connect with other people's successes in a way that I was never able to. I was at the dentist. So this was a few months ago, and he was talking to me before he was getting ready to work on my teeth. So we just got to talking. I asked him where he went to school, and he started giving me like his whole backstory. And he's like, oh, at first I was like really struggling. I think said he was like a plumber or something, and then he's like, but then I got myself through dental school, and then I had to do an internship. He goes, but then finally I became an oral surgeon. He goes, and now I'm moving my family to North Carolina to start a new practice down there, and I'm leaving in a few weeks. And I was like I felt that with him, like I felt that success and, that triumph with to the point where it was, like I was there with him getting that diploma on the stage at that moment. Like that moment, I felt that. And I was like, I am so happy for you right
Yeah.
now. And I've never been able to do that before. Never. I was either too fixated on my own shortcomings, or I was too fixated on what am I going to do to be something in this world, my own insignificances, that I could never like focus on somebody else's successes. It just, but
Right.
now I don't have that anymore. Like I really don't give a shit. And now I'm like free to totally empathize with somebody on a level that I didn't even know was possible. And like he felt that. That's the craziest part. Like he felt that I was so thrilled for him. It was like a joy for him to work on my teeth in that moment. It was really, and I've had a lot of experiences like that with coworkers and with family members, just being able to deeply empathize with them on a level that I didn't know was possible. And, for me, that's just been getting out of myself.
Peter and I talked about, well, it'll be 2 videos ago when this one comes out, but we talked about kind of a similar thing, right? Like until I stopped having all this self-hatred, which the voices had, forced me to stop thinking these bad thoughts about myself. And I didn't realize how much I was hating myself until they exposed it, until the phenomenon exposed it. And then once I started feeling better about myself, I started feeling better about everybody else. And then I started connecting. I started connecting with people in a way that I never had before. And exactly what you're saying there, Eddie, that's like, I can now almost, and I don't mean to brag at all, but I'm being honest when I say I can almost now just talk to someone for just a minute and be like, okay, I see what needs to happen there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. And so I would like talking about Peter and then the data on this thing. I would love to see some sort of survey on how many people feel like they're better at helping others and communicating emotionally and stuff like that with others after the phenomenon. You know what I mean? That'd be interesting.
Yeah. What you're saying, I absolutely relate with. I understand entirely, actually. And I feel that same exact way. It's really interesting. It's like there's a hidden. Well, people are connected regardless of this experience or not. I do feel that in the universal consciousness, we're all connected to it. But it feels like is another level now that we're able to just easily connect in a way at times. Not everybody I know goes through this, but so I hear you there for sure.
Do you think it's because, and this is kind of where my mind goes, is because we're able to connect with a frequency or a level of suffering without being attached to it at that point? Like in my own mind, I have suffered greatly. And it has been shown to me that because what used to happen, right? And this actually happened recently, where a they used to create spillovers, and I know a lot of TIs deal with these spillovers, where like let's say like a lucid dream state, which is kind of like a hybrid of REM sleep and awake consciousness, is what a lucid dream is. Some sort of scenario would be playing where I'm in a state of torment and being tortured. And then all of a sudden that would be intertwined with my awake consciousness, like right now. And I would feel the anxiety and the stress and the fear and the anger and all of that stuff that I was feeling in the lucid dream would just come and boom, it would spill over, almost like a panic attack or an anxiety attack. And I would most likely get this when I would wake up. Or if I just laid in the bed, sometimes they would dip me down into it and then bring me right back up immediately. And I would bring all that rage and all that hatred and anxiety and fear up with me. But now they just tried doing it again this past week. And I mean, the two realities are like razor thin. I'm talking like, like there's this right here. And then directly like on one little like subset frequency is this whole other reality of torture, like a hell. And the slower those two start like kind of combining, like how much of that can you deal with without losing your shit? And that's what they did this past week. And I was being tortured in it. I was hitting myself in the head again and I was looking around for like, I don't like meds or something, which whatever, some sort of an alleviation. And then all of a sudden I was brought out of it. And normally I would flip out. I like, the spillover, I would flip out and I'd say, you mother, but when it happened this time, I was boom. It was like dead silent, dude. I was like a log. Just examined it and observed it. And I was like, really? Like that's what's going on? Like I saw, you know, so so now to be so close to hell and maintain composure. It's as if I'm able to reach down onto a different frequency where others are suffering without being affected entirely by that level of suffering, but yet still be able to empathize because I too have been there.
Like the two frequency ranges, you mean the different states of mind, like the sleep, conscious sleep, and then like lucid dreaming, but in between, you'd be stuck in this type of torture phase, I guess.
So it's been proven, scientifically proven that we dream all the time. Like right now, I'm actually recreating a whole other reality based off of this reality. Like, yeah, there's my perception. I see you, I see Tony, and that's, being perceived in my mind, but I'm also dreaming at the same time. Like I'm actually recreating a whole other reality based off of this to help me cope with this reality. And it's usually fear based because that's what we do. We're always thinking in fearful ways. And it's a survival mechanism. Like what's the worst possible thing that could happen so that I don't hurt myself or injure myself or wind up in an accident or do something stupid. We're always thinking like ahead of ourselves in fearful ways. That's just how we are. So when a lucid dream happens, that dream state, which is it's an REM dream frequency, and it kind of gets mixed in with an awake conscious frequency, right? And it's, basically our conscious self and how we perceive ourselves is experiencing the dream state. And it seems just as real as this, right? Like there's in that moment, that's the only reality that you're aware of. And that is reality in that moment. So my thinking is, and I've actually experienced this, is that lucid dream arena or that dream arena in our mind is where a lot of manipulation is taking place and where the voices are because I hear them in that state as well. And that the two frequencies themselves come together and sort of overlap this one. And that's what creates a lot of the hallucinations and brings about the emotional distress that we're involved in the subconscious into the conscious arena. And there's this slow commingling of the two. It's as if hell is brought out to meet you, the hell that you're creating in your mind, and this fearful expression of yourself, and the manner in which you fearfully think about the world is actually consciously brought out for you to deal with. And then you start hearing all this shit, and you think it's happening out here. And then the more that you're able to deal with that out here, the cleaner this becomes. You sanitize this a lot more, and then the two can kind of come together in a more uniform pattern. And now you have this agreement and this relationship between your conscious mind and your subconscious and unconscious mind. It just keeps kind of going back and back and back.
The phase that you were in, is it something that they do have done always, that like in between where it's like the merging happens? Is it something they've always done to you?
So it was more frequent in the beginning. I used to get it a lot. It was like, man, I'd say once every other day, and then it was like once a week, and then it was once every few weeks, and then it was once a month, and then it was literally once every full moon for a while. That was the
Uh,
waxing of the moon. I would experience it like it was bringing it out, and now it's the last one I said like was this past week, but there was no response on my end at all. Like usually I could sense it coming. Like I knew that there was going to be a merger of these two realities, one where there's me here and one where I'm being tortured in some chamber or torture zone that's getting ready to mix here. And then the closer it gets up to this reality, the more the scenery of that begins to match this reality as it gets closer to my actual perception of my observation, my perception. It begins to actually match that, to the point where it's like now I'm anxious, but there's no reason for it. Now I have fear, but there's no reason for it. Well, it started as a manipulation here and is being brought forward into more of a reality upward this way. So you kind of have to learn. This is why I do all the mantra work. You kind of have to learn to fight it back this way as it's trying to come up this way, and then sort of meet it in the middle until you have no response to it anymore.
that's pretty good. I like that, Kevin. I like that a lot. The mantra thing is a big help, by the way, too, for me. I try to keep that going a lot just to keep my thought controls a bit. My thoughts controlled a bit, and just keeping myself subconsciously programming constantly in a way. So something that I got from you, actually.
If you can, Eddie, just give us any of the tricks of the trade at some point during this interview. I'd like to hear discourse. I'd like to hear what, any tools that you used to make things better, like you're talking about mantra work, and then also on a scale of 1 to 10, if 10 was the worst that your experience has ever been, then where are you nowadays on average? Where are you sitting on that 1 to 10 scale? So I'd like to hear about that stuff if you don't mind.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess the day to day, how I live my life now and everything. So after I took a step back from this, the discords and the communities, really, I started just living my life in a way where I stopped focusing on the negative shit. Not anything different than what I've been doing. I just don't focus on the negative. And I've noticed the people who do stay stuck on focusing on the negative seem to have a really tough time. Either they're very vocal about it, or they're just really going through it. And it's hard to not focus on that. But I also realize that the more I focus, the more attention I put onto that, it destroys my days and my mindset and just a lot. I don't focus on it anymore. So even though it sucks, it fucking sucks at times, and they're doing some shit to me, and they do a lot of real fucked up shit, and I just try to find hope no matter what. So I go to work and I do my job. I do my fucking full-time job, and I just focus on my job and my task, and the shit that they'll say, at least they used to say, I would just try to tune it out and focus on my thing. And obviously that's only as much as they allow you to, I guess. If they don't want you to focus on shit and they want you to go crazy, they just turn the volume up real loud. But so for me, it's just not focusing on that and being happy and finding things in life that make me happy. So there are connections that we can have with people, and that means a lot, especially if it's in these communities or it's outside of these communities. You can find relationships with people and just feel happy like that. You can find activities and hobbies that you do, and that makes a world of a difference. In fact, I keep myself very busy with outdoors activities or just in general after work, and just doing shit, so I don't have to sit in silence or sit and fucking listen to them, or just sit and fucking think about how much this sucks. I think about well, fuck, I can't wait to do something I like to do. I don't ever want to be in that victim mentality again. I don't ever want to live like that again. In the beginning, it's hard because that's all you're focusing on is the shit they fucking do. But like after a while, even in the beginning, I was like, I'm going to get through this. I'm not going to fucking give up. I'm not giving up. Absolutely not. No matter what. And like, they used to even fuck with me in the beginning, be like, oh, you don't like giving up at all. So we're going to see how hard we can push you then and see how much it takes to get you to give up and just shit like that. But like, it's just who I am. So I don't give up. So I continue on and I keep fighting through. And, I mean, there are times they'll do some crazy shit to me. Like, I can't see when they do. You remember I used to tell you this, Kevin? I don't know if you remember it, but the fucking eye thing, man. They used to blind me, literally, with my eyes. They would cross them. They would turn them. All these fucking crazy shit. They still do that. And that sucks. But not as much anymore. But even something like that, right? So I guess if I was to let that win, I would stop driving my car, or I would stop doing the task I need to do because I can't see. It's an easy escape to not be able to do your task. Or it's an easy thing to scapegoat. Oh, they're fucking with me. I can't do it. I'm going to give up. And like, that is definitely not the right way about it at all. Because that, in my opinion, because then you just give up too easily. You don't really try too hard, and we just can't, we don't really have a choice. I don't think giving up is really a choice for a lot of things. Otherwise we would just be fucking like, dude, life would suck way worse if we just gave up like that, you know, and I don't like that idea. So TI or not, I don't like the victim mentality, and I don't think the TI shit that we deal with is an excuse to give up too easily on anything. And that is a huge one for me. Actually, that might have been one of the very more important things in my life that kept me going.
What would you say is the worst thing that happened to you throughout this, and what is the best thing that you've gotten out of this?
Oh man. All right. So, the worst and the best. I mean, they've done some really scary shit to me. Shit that I haven't heard many TIs talk about. But like, so they've done, I mean, I know, Tony, you've said that they've moved your hand before. They can move your body and your arms and stuff. And they do that to me too. They used to really badly. They've done some really scary shit, actually. I don't even know how detailed I want to get because it's really fucking terrifying, and I don't want to put that into anybody's mind because it is scary. And but it seems like when my mindset is in those ways, they can do things where they move my body in a way that I can't control, and where I don't remember if they want to also. They've done some really scary shit like that, and they've also done some really scary shit where I can see, like, it was just some horrifying shit out of like a horror movie, practically. Those things and the emotional manipulation that they do, that's fucking hard. Because when you're confused about the emotions that you feel, well, let's say you're not aware of it, right? You're just feeling happy, sad, love, depressed, whatever it is. And like, you assume those emotions are yours, and you just go about your day to day and you just do the actions associated to those emotions. But when you don't understand that they're yours, you can make the wrong choice in a lot of different situations. And I had been doing that for a bit, actually. I made a lot of wrong choices based on the emotions I felt because I wasn't being aware of the emotional manipulation as how deep it was for me. So there was a time when I understood exactly when it was them. Even though I felt that emotion, I would know that it's not mine. But as time went on, it became more subtle. And I realized that there are emotions that I'm feeling that are not me genuinely feeling these emotions, and it's something else. And those are the times that I have to be more careful. Even to this day, they're really scary because they can cause a lot of destruction. Making actions and choices based on the emotions you feel, for somebody like me who makes most of their choices based on my emotions, is a detrimental mistake.
What's the best thing that you've gotten out of this whole thing?
I guess there's I don't know. There's a lot of different positive things that have happened. One of the things that I think is kind of cool in a way is that I feel like I'm able to just know things in a way before they happen. It's a weird way. I feel like the connected thing I was telling you earlier, and my intuition has like skyrocketed, whether or not it's them mixing into it or whatnot. It's just like at an unbelievable rate now. So I will just do things and I feel like I know them, like what people are thinking before they say it, you know, or like I know what's going to happen 5 seconds later, or I'll have this weird synchronicity dream, and shit like that is kind of cool. because it makes me feel like, wow, that's fucking, at least there's something coming out of this. I can do some really cool shit that nobody believes. I feel like I can, but
Other people have gotten these kinds of gains, let's call them powers, if you want to call them, intuitions, whatever you want to call it, right? And other people have gotten these from worshiping some sort of a deity, or promoting or committing to some sort of an idea or a craft or a process, whatever. Do you feel like that you have gained these intuitions because you have committed yourself in any way to something else other than maybe a stoic or that kind of a deal, like you said, like staying the course and not letting something defeat you? Is there something else? I mean, do you have a religious practice? Do you worship anything? You see what I'm saying? What I'm asking?
me personally, I don't have a religion. I don't believe in my type of religion anymore. I do believe in spirituality and the connections that we can have and build. And prayer, I still think, is a valid thing, regardless if you have a god or a deity. I think it's important to pray to at least to the universe. And that's what I would probably pray to. So I find power in that. I don't know if it's related to that or if it's related to this or if it's a mix. I know that I've always felt even when I was younger, I felt like I just knew things. I didn't know how to explain it. I just felt like I had this like sixth sense type of thing where I could just feel what other people feel. And then when this started, it seems to have really turned up later in my experience, though. So maybe there's a part of it that is natural to me, and maybe there's a part of it that's been heavily influenced by them. And I don't know if it's because I'm worshiping or anything like that, or if it's just because I'm just staying the course. I know that when I do things that are against the grain, they do not, shit gets bad. So if shit gets bad, when I'm doing things against the grain, those types of powers don't really seem to be as significant. Or if they are, they're in a really negative way. So maybe it's positive, in that, I don't know. I don't know. I can't really be sure. A mix. That's my answer. A mix.
Well, and the only reason I ask is because, in this world where we've got these weird things happening, I know people who have had prayers answered that were, seemed very supernatural, for prayers to the biblical God, and it seemed very supernatural. And then there are plenty of people who talk about witchcraft and that it actually works and you can actually get results from it, things like that. So, I think it's a good idea to ask people, like, are you involved in any sort of occult or witchcraft or, anything like that? Do you have a practice, that kind of thing?
They get really like almost, I don't want to say anxious, but, what's the word I'm looking for? Apprehensive when it comes to any of that sort of stuff. Like I've just read and too many testimonies and have spoken to too many people that were involved with even Hinduism or witchcraft or occultism that experienced this way worse than I do. Like I mean, they have gotten the physical sensations and the takeovers and the bodily and the possession and the way worse than I have. And they're praying to other deities. And I'm not saying that any of that occult practice is um, bad or taboo or evil because I'm very ignorant about it. I don't know enough, and I don't want to judge somebody for the way that they go about handling this whole thing. But it does seem like that when you open yourself up to something else handling your business for you, right? Some other unseen and unknown entity or enterprise or agency reaching out to you don't know what you're getting. You know what I mean? It's like what the heck, who are you reaching out to? Oh, I'm like, dude, you have no clue. Like you don't know what you're inviting in, what's coming in, I just don't. Honestly, the whole thing with that, like, kind of, I don't go anywhere near it. I look at, so if you can view like our world's biggest religions like Christianity and Islam and whatever, Buddhism, even Mormonism, or, and just kind of get rid of the storyline to all of them and look at the underlying themes and the concepts that all of them were promoting, which are like compassion, forgiveness, love, grace, mercy, like these are the underlying themes of all those storylines, right? Same theme, different narrative. So that's always where I've gone. I say I don't care what wardrobe or what face you want to put on it or what symbol you want to give it, or the underlying themes and concepts to all of these storylines are the same thing. And that's always been my go-to with all of this. Like I don't need you to put a beard on something. I don't need you to put a hat on it. I don't need, like, I can see clearly that the teaching here is love and acceptance and patience and kindness and compassion. And I'm just going to stay focused on that and that has served me well. Like that has really, really served me well. And I mean, if I'm worshiping anything or I'm staying obedient to anything, it's love and it's compassion, and in whatever shape and form that comes in.
It's the same for me, except that I like what also, and I think that I'm not saying you don't feel this way, Kevin, but also it's just you have to add into that equation what Eddie said earlier, which is weaponized empathy is a thing, right? Being overly empathetic, and this is what Peter talks about too, being overly empathetic to where it's not your true self can get you completely in a bad spot too, right? So it's it's that balance, right?
Yeah, I view that more as like a pretentious empathy, like
Yeah.
the especially like in the beginning when shit was so negative, I was like, surely I must have done something terrible to have brought this upon myself. I need to go the opposite way and start doing some good shit.
Right.
And then you realize that all the good shit you're doing, you're just being a pretentious douchebag and it has no value whatsoever. It's just you being in defense mode or offense mode, trying to, it's like you really got to bring it in with yourself. And I actually just started experiencing, um, man, like these past few months, I had to look it up. I didn't know what it was. It's called Fireface. Have you ever heard of Fireface, Eddie?
No, it's Fireface.
Fire face is when you are so overwhelmed with compassion that your face explodes like it's your glow or like your whole face just heats up. Like it's like you're just overwhelmed with empathy and compassion. And I said, "What is that?" I was flooded with it, right? I was flooded with it, and the voices kicked in immediately. They were like, "Blah, blah, blah," like they didn't, like they were acting like they didn't like it or whatever. And I'm to the point now. I'm like, just get the hell out of here! Like nobody's buying your shit. But I was flooded with it to the point where my face was just like more than flushed. It goes beyond flushed. It's a warmth that starts at the top of your head and comes down. And I was like, wow, I've never experienced that before. And I looked it up and it's a thing. It's called fire face in spirituality. Yeah. I would like to ask you, um, if you could give anybody that's just starting to experience, like what you've been through, a word of advice, some appropriate steps to take, an appropriate mindset to cultivate to get through this. Just give your 2 cents on what's the best way for somebody to go about this from somebody that's already gone through it.
Yeah, all right. That's a solid ask. So I think that the best thing to do is to not give up no matter what. That was like the number one thing for me. And I wanted to end my life like I tried to. And a few times, well, one time in particular, and I tried again. And the biggest word of advice is that just don't give up no matter what happens. I mean, there's a lot of shit that we go through, and like it always seems like it's the end for you, or you just want to give up and you're just better off not being there. But it isn't the choice. I don't think it's the right answer. And I think just holding on to hope that like it will get a little bit better. It does get better. I live a very happy life now, and if I had ended my life back then, I would be fucking. I mean, I wouldn't be here, so I would have fucked everything up, and just don't give up. It's the most important thing, I think. Just know that it's going to get better. Being outside in nature, that's like one of the most impactful things I can do is being outside in nature. And I know that you mentioned that a bit ago, and I just wanted to kind of express that a bit more too, because I don't know how many other people who go through this shit are just stuck inside all day because they can't leave or they're afraid. But I know that for me, when I'm in the woods, when I'm out in the mountains or whatever I'm doing outside, it just goes down. The whole shit, all the negative, all the tough shit I go through, it just like declines. And I'm just a little bit, I'm just much more happier. It's like a blessing, really. I just want to make that known. I think it's like a medicine for us, really.
So you didn't actually answer the where you are on average on a scale of 1 to 10, and with 10 being your worst. Where are you at nowadays on average?
On the average, it's like one being
Really?
the best.
Wow.
One to two, maybe. Occasionally, it jumps to like a 4. But my day to day is like a one. I don't even hear them the way I used to. I hear them very different. Like they're my own thought in a way, but they don't talk shit the way they used to. They really just sit there and just give their 2 fucking cents on some shit. That's about it, really. Or they'll do some weird fucking shit. But
I could really relate when you did the last video with Peter. He was saying, because you asked him, you said, now, okay, now, like, do they give you advice? Like, are they giving you like insights into things? And he was like, well, it's hard to explain. Like, it's not really advice, but like, I totally get what he's saying because it's almost like if you can picture your, your thought as a bowling ball and then you're rolling the ball down the lane, the voices start to serve as like, the bumper guards that they put up for kids to keep it going back and forth. They start serving like that. So like if you get a train of thought going and you start getting a little off course, it'll kick you back on and then it'll kick you back over. And but you're still kind of going forward with your thought. And then depending on how well they're kicking your thought around will determine how many pins you hit.
It won't do that by giving you the answer necessarily. It's the relationship that you've built with this thing, whether or not, or how much you don't trust it and what it's used before to fool you, that tells you where those bumper guards are, right? It's not that they go, oh, here's a great, wonderful, wonderful solution for you. No, you showed me where the bumper guards are.
It's like a boundary or like a border for thought. So that keeps your thought progressing in a forward motion onto something better. So you don't get into the gutter and, get trapped in shitty thoughts.
the idea of this bumper thing that you're saying, like on your whatever you're doing in your life, and it has the bumper kind of mindset that it's giving you to protect you, not protect you, but just guide you in a way, I guess. So that's very true for me. So it's not that they're ever giving me like advice. I mean, they might say some shit. They're like, why don't you do this? Whatever. But like, if I'm doing something that does not align with whatever they want or whatever they're, not that they want something, if it doesn't align with whatever the goal is supposed to be, it is very known. It is very well known. Like, it is not easy for me. It's like going against the grain. And that is something I also wanted to mention. So a lot of the times in the beginning, you want to change this, you want it to end and you want your life to go back to the way it was. And every time I would do shit like that or do things like that, it would be like going against the grain in a way, trying to get my old life back. But if I gave it up, the idea of wanting to get my old life back, and I just went with the way, whatever the fuck it was, just stop fighting, I guess, it became easier for me. And it became much more easier. And I think that sometimes we want our old lives back so badly, like so badly, that we'll do absolutely anything. And I see people talking about it who are years into this shit, that like, I'm going to do this. We're going to get out of this shit. We're going to fucking end it. I'm going to do this. And like, I don't give a fuck anymore. Like, I do care, but like, I can't stop whatever this is happening. So I have to just accept it and live my life. And like, that is huge, because if you don't, you always want something else to be the way it used to be. And you never accept it and just move on with your life. And that's a big part right there, I think.
Yes, very well said.
Well said, Eddie. If you could give this a purpose, because I hate saying that it has an objective, okay, or a goal, only because we see such a wide array of outcomes. We see everything from murder to suicide to enlightenment happen with this, that it's very difficult for me to say that it has one ultimate goal that's universal for everybody, because I just, we don't see that. We have different outcomes. Okay. So, but if you could say that it has a purpose, what would you say its purpose is?
This is just my opinion, but I believe its purpose is to change you in a way, or help you change, or however you want to take that. But change, I think, is the purpose, in my opinion. And that's just probably from my own experience, but still. Yeah. What do you think?
Yes, change, but I think it helps us to cultivate a higher state of consciousness by burning off residual instinct, if that makes sense. So if you can look at if I look at some of my old instinctual behaviors, I was very just reactive to the world. I just reacted. I was very impulsive, like I would just like, yes, my emotions were, and my cravings and my impulses were just kind of driving my life. It didn't matter what it was. I wanted money. I wanted to go out with this girl. I wanted to sleep with this chick. I wanted to drink some beer. I wanted to, I got to get up and I got to do this. I got to, I was always like, I was busy, 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 fill, craving, craving, craving until it would be like too much. Like, I don't want any more of that. That's too much. Get that away from me. So I was constantly stuck in this battle of craving and aversion at all times, very, so and if you look at that, that's almost very animalistic. Like an animal just operates off of instinct. Like it's not, how much awareness an animal has, I don't know. But when a dog's hungry, it wants to eat. When it wants to sleep, it sleeps. When it gets excited, it wags its tail. Like it has all these bodily responses and reflexes and reactions to its environment. It's just It's there and it reacts to its environment without any forethought, right? And that's how I was. So what I believe that it's doing is actually burning off residual instinct so that we're not as responsive to our environment. And what this does is it creates a low entropy mind because my mind was very high entropy, right? I was just going and going and going and going. And what this did was it taught me to let go of the bullshit. All the stuff that I once held as having immense amounts of value that was actually creating suffering in my life, all of a sudden is meaningless. It has absolutely no meaning. Like I look at the way that I used to live and I'm like, I can't even believe that I used to do that shit. Like, what was I was getting nothing out of that. Absolutely. I wasn't helping myself. I wasn't helping anybody else. Like, I wasn't contributing anything. I was just fulfilling. I was just fulfilling and fulfilling. And now, it's like what people would refer to as like a Christ consciousness or Buddhahood or a Buddha mind. I'm sort of coming into that, and it's a much lower entropy state of mind that is more compassionate, more caring, and thinks clearly. Like I wasn't able to ever think like this either and put together thoughts in my head or speak about myself as truthfully, um, with coherence without being a pretentious douchebag. Like I was always like, I just wanted you to see a version of me that I wanted to give off. And now, it's like that's not there anymore. I don't have to live this pretentious high entropy life anymore. So, I mean, that's kind of how I see it. Yeah. And that is tremendous change. That's huge change for anybody. What would your response to that be, Tony?
I think that it's that what we're talking about is preparing us, my best guess, right? Because we have two things. We have what do we know and what is our best guess? And when you add up all the stuff that you still don't know what's happening. So then we have, well, what's our best guess? And my best guess is that this is somehow preparing us for what's going to come in the afterlife. That when you talk to astral projection people and you talk to people who, have experienced the other side, preparing us for that in a way is a big part of this, because what does it do? It gets rid of fear. And what is the biggest problem in astral projection and things like that is that these are a lot of entities that you think look scary and could hurt you, but the truth is they can't. So it's all a show, really. And in my opinion, that's what this is for, is kind of a prep for that.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, I like that. All right, Eddie, thank you for your time. Thank you for catching up with us and for your insight and for your testimony again and for being you. We appreciate you.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, man.
Thanks, Eddie.